Hi and welcome to Skein Studio. My name is Kristen. You can find me on Ravelry as K10 and on Instagram as Skein Yarn. Hi, it's been a very long time since I've put out a podcast. I went to Greece. If you don't know, if you're a new listener, my husband and I went to Greece. We had 6 weeks off work and we've been back from overseas for probably about a month. So I haven't really podcasted. I've had some issues with noise problems. Basically, when I podcast downstairs, we have a big construction going in across the road and they are really noisy. So yeah, I just can't find time to do it because on Saturdays, which is today, they work half day and it's still really noisy. So yes, I am upstairs. I'm going to try this location out. So I'm upstairs in my, this is our spare room, but it's also my yarn room. I've got all my yarn and my pattern books and sewing stuff and everything here. So hopefully this will work out well. Because it's a nice room, should be quiet, and it's nice and light, so hopefully this will work. I know the last time I tried to podcast up here, something went really wonky with the light and I looked red like a tomato, so I ended up deleting it all and doing it again downstairs. So hopefully I've got the light right this time and I don't look like a red tomato. Yeah, how are you all? I hope you're all really well. I'll talk about our trip at the end of the podcast, but I just wanted to put out there that I've missed podcasting so much and the week just flies, and like I said, I can't podcast here downstairs because we've got a lot of noise, and then the studio at work, well, our work at the studio, it is very noisy too. We have neighbours next door who are a young couple with a baby, and they make quite a lot of noise. It's in an industrial area, but they've turned this place into their home, and he also works there as well. He's a motor mechanic, or I think it's with bikes. And then the guy who's next to us, he also does a lot of work on, I don't even know what he works on. It's like big petroleum things he brings in, so it's always really noisy. The other problem is at work is that we don't have a lot of natural light. It's actually quite a dark place. I wouldn't say really dark, but to record like this you would need to set up lights. So, whoops, there goes my phone. So anyway, I'm hoping this will work. And yes, like I was saying, I also would like, because I've missed podcasting so much, this month in November I am going to try and podcast once a week and see how that goes. It's not a all the time schedule, but I just want to get back on track with my podcasting, and I think the way to do that would be to do it regularly and get used to it again. So hopefully I'll have enough to show you. I suppose the good thing about doing it weekly is that it really does force you to knit, because you're sort of wanting to show something on the podcast. So you, yes, I do find I knit quite a lot, or a lot more. I've also got a bit of sewing to show you too, so, but we'll get into that in a minute. We had an Ambah O'Brien knit along. That was running for the past couple of months. Unfortunately I've been, well, obviously away overseas, so I haven't been in the group that much, but when I went in to have a look at the finished objects, there was a lot. So basically it finished yesterday, so the knit along's over, but it was an Ambah O'Brien knit along, so you could knit any pattern of Ambah O'Brien's that you wanted to, and just submit it, finished object, by I think it was the 3rd of November. And I drew prizes today, so I just wanted to show the prizes off once again, because I'm so grateful for people who donate prizes to the podcast. It's just fabulous, and I like to promote them too. And actually I have this bag, it actually came with me. Do I have mine here? Not this exact project bag, but the one that I was sent as a gift from TotesaGoGo, and I'll put their link in the show notes. They're an Australian company who make bags. They're fantastic. Like I said, I took mine overseas. It was in and out of my bag about 1,000,000 times, traveling around. It looks fantastic. Like, it's just worn so well. But this is the prize that I was given. That's their label there. That's a TotesaGoGo. That's what they call their bags, their project bags. They also make book covers. So go check them out on Etsy. And I also wanted to talk about Ambah O'Brien, who I love her designs. She's sent about 3 or 4 pins. I was lucky enough to grab one for myself. Yeah, so thanks if you did join in. And I will be ear burning everyone on Ravelry who won, and hopefully they'll get back to me soon and I can send them their prizes. So for my knit-alongs, for my whips, I have the Lamina wrap by Ambah O'Brien. I still have this going. I don't think I cast this on, or maybe I had cast it on just before I left in the previous podcast. But I'll get it out. It's tangled a little bit because there's so many skeins of yarn in this, and I have them in one bag and it sort of all gets tangled up. Anyway, I took this overseas with me and it was a great travel project, but funnily enough I didn't knit at all really. I think I did probably about 10 rows at the most. Oh god, I think that might be going red again. I hope this works. Yeah, so I did probably about 10 rows and that was it. We were so busy, so I did a few rows on this when I was away, but I've done most of this when I've come back. So this is the Lamina wrap, again by Ambah O'Brien, and that's it there. It's gorgeous. It's just a simple repeat of lace and garter, and it really, this pattern, if you have some nice contrasty yarns or, you know, a couple of special skeins in your stash, this is a great project for them because it really highlights the colours that you've used. So yeah, actually Yarn About Yarn on Ravelry, she did the Lamina wrap and she had like this rainbow of colours. It was stunning. You should go on the group and check it out. I'm using Skein yarn. This is our Uptown sock base, which is a single ply sock. And I'm using Cosmic Dust, which is sort of a speckled, but you can really see how that the orange pops out. I'm using Be Mine, which is this colour, Vivid Violet and Whisper. And I just happened to see these colours together when I think I was taking photos of the yarn for an update, and I just love them so much, so I immediately put them together for this to take overseas. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I mean, I really haven't knitted a lot since we got back. I really felt jet lagged when I got back, and it took me probably 3 weeks to get back to feeling normal. So I haven't done a huge amount of knitting. Although in saying that, I did actually finish a shawl. It's a new design, but I'm not going to show you that. I'm going to keep that a secret for a little bit. But yeah, I just haven't knit much. It's terrible. I suppose too it's getting hotter here, so that doesn't help. But yeah, so I did that. I took that overseas, and then I also took just a plain vanilla sock, which is always fun, always good to knit on. And actually I worked on this a lot, well, a lot more. What just happened? And I just lost stitches. Shivers. How did that happen? Hang on guys, just let me pick these up and I'll get straight back to you. Okay, got the stitches back on the needle. I don't know what is going on, but that is happening a lot to me lately. For some reason I'm pulling needles out of my bag and I'm getting pulling the needles straight out of my knitting. It's a real pain. I need to get some of those needle stoppers. Anyway, I took this overseas with me. This is just a plain vanilla sock. Look at that gorgeous colour. This is Hedgerow Yarn. This is in the... can't remember. I'll put the colourway down below. I did this last time. This was a lovely gift from Helen Stewart, she sent this to me when she was in Australia because we were meant to meet up, and then we had this horrific storm week where we had flooding and they were closing roads, and she was coming down from Byron Bay with her family. And yes, it just was not safe to do that, so unfortunately I didn't get to meet her, but hopefully next time. So she had bought this for me as a gift. This is a UK company, hand-dyed company, and I just love these colours. I love them. I was saying at the knit group the other day, just these certain pops of colour come up like there, that really nice bright yellow and lime green, and oh, they're just so lovely to knit. This is their merino cashmere fingering base, is that right? No, that's my base. MCN Sock, merino cashmere nylon, and it's beautiful. It's really, really nice. Actually, I think this is the nicest MCN yarn I've ever felt. It's really, really cushy. It has that halo of the cashmere. Ah, it's really, really nice. I actually would love to have a cardigan knit out of this, or some sort of top. It's just, oh, I could just imagine how warm this would be to wear as a top. Yeah, it's really, really nice yarn. It's actually quite thick too. I mean, it's meant to be a sock weight, but it actually feels really substantial. I think that's the cashmere probably making the fibres bloom a bit, but it's stunning. I'm really, really enjoying it. So like you can see, I've knitted I always do top down, so I've done the top down, I've done the heel flap, which I'm going to do partridge, what is it called? Partridge something heel. It's where it's a slip stitch but you get that nice pattern. I'm going to do that next. But I actually did something different, which is like not a major change, but I did a 1x1 rib, but I did a twisted rib at the top. I used to do all my cups twisted rib, but for some reason I just stopped doing it, and I don't know why, because I like the way it looks, and I think it helps because you're twisting that knitted stitch. I think it actually helps to make it gather a bit better. Anyway, yep, so I'm just on the foot, and this is the first sock. I haven't done the second sock yet, but I'm just plodding my way through and I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, I was contacted by Hohi Locatelli, who I absolutely adore. She has a new pattern coming very soon, and she asked if I would like to test knit it, and of course I said yes, I would. So I can show you this, I hope, because she did post the finished design on Instagram, so I'm hoping that she won't mind. But this is a very, very simple pullover. As you can see, I'm at the neck at the moment, so it's top down, and yeah, that's all I can show you at the moment. I've done the back and the front, so I've just got to knit maybe a little bit more, maybe an inch or two of the front, which is what I'm knitting at the moment, and then I join it up to the body. As you can see, it's very, very simple. I love these kind of designs. They're really, really easy to knit, obviously, because it's just stockinette stitch, and not a lot of brain power goes into this. It's not like it's full of cables or lace, but it's also really nice to show off your speckled yarns. So I was going to use this one. No, it wasn't that one. I have a really lovely Malabrigo yarn that I bought. There it is. I bought it on my 40th birthday, which was 2 years ago because I just turned 42. Not that one. I was going to use this. Isn't that stunning? This is Malabrigo. That's the colourway. It's just their sock yarn, and oh, I mean Malabrigo. Look how beautiful. They're just how they get that colour so intense. It's just, oh, it's so good I could eat it. Like, it's just so lovely. So yeah, I was going to use that, but then I ended up, I want to keep that for something else. But I ended up using our yarn. I actually had this yarn just dyed, so Hohi contacted me at a very good time. So I am using our single ply Uptown sock base. This is in the colourway Eventide, and I really like this colour because it's got all of my colours in it, the pinks and the purples, and there's a little bit of blue, and that's how it's knitting up. I am actually what do you call it? Alternating skeins. When I skeined the skeins up, when I balled the skeins up, they all looked pretty good. Like, they didn't look like there was too much of a variation between the colours. But I really am paranoid because I've done this when I was a beginning knitter. I did this. I knitted top down, one skein after the other. Beautiful, and then all of a sudden it went light, and you can so see this colour block, and I'm absolutely paranoid ever since then that that's going to happen. So pretty much every skein of yarn, no, every jumper that I knit, I alternate the skeins of yarn, particularly when it's so variegated and colourful. I don't want pooling or mismatched colours. And I mean, obviously I've said this a million times, but even though skeins look the same in a skein, or even when you ball them up or cake them up, once you start knitting them, that's the only time you're going to know whether there is a variation. And sometimes they just do wonky things, who knows, they just do their own thing, and one minute you've got dark colour and the next minute you've got light colour, and it's once it's done, it's done. The only way to fix it is to pull the whole thing out and start again. So I don't want to do that. So anyway, this is a test knit, and yeah, it's going really well. I'm pretty much solely knitting on that now because I want to get that done for Hohi in time, because I do have a tendency to put projects down and forget about them and cast on something new. It's terrible. Yeah, and that's my whips. Okay, so for sewing this week, I wanted to quickly talk about some sewing podcasts that I absolutely love. So the first one is The Fold Line, and that's by Kate. And The Fold Line is sort of connected to the online community that is The Fold Line. If you're into sewing, you probably already know about this. I spoke a few episodes ago about Textilia, which is the similar type thing. It's like a Ravelry for sewists. And The Fold Line is exactly the same thing. It has communities, it has a huge database. Yeah, I mean, you can follow people. It's really good. I love it to look up patterns that I'm thinking of making, like we do when we're knitting, and see what other people have knit, and any sort of modifications that other people have come up with. So yeah, The Fold Line is Kate, who I think The Fold Line is actually two people, and Kate's one of them. But she's so good. They're very short podcasts. They're like 20 to 30 minutes, which is great. And she talks about new patterns that have been released, and she does like seasonal reviews, so winter and summer and spring. She goes onto the high streets in London. Oh, she's UK based. And she'll go to the big shops, designer stores, and then she'll come back and do a podcast on what was in the stores, as in like what sort of styles are trending. So it's really, really good. I really enjoy that podcast. So that's The Fold Line by Kate, and I will put a link in the show notes. The other sewing podcast is Stitched in Sweden. And this is Stitched in Sweden is Maria, and she does, I think it actually started out as a knitting podcast, but she sort of has slowly gone into more sewing. She has been sewing for her wedding and for a friend's wedding. So there's been a lot of sewing content, and I've really, really enjoyed it. Actually, I forgot to write down someone else too, but I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, so Stitched in Sweden, she has actually been doing a couple of podcasts where she has sewing day, and she'll podcast throughout the whole day, and she'll update you with what she has done. So she'll say, you know, I've got 5 patterns, this is what I'm going to sew, and then you'll watch her do that throughout the day. It's really, really interesting. I take a lot of, well, not a lot of notes, but I always jot down the patterns that she's sewing because I really like them. So yeah, that's one to check if you haven't already seen it. The other one is Inside Number 23, and that's Katie, and you probably all know her too because, again, it's a knitting and a sewing podcast, but she has like really fabulous taste in patterns, and I really love her material choices. Yeah, it's just great. Actually, between Katie and Kristen of Wool&Vine Yarn, or Wool&Vine podcast, they actually got me back into sewing because I'd be watching their podcasts and I'd be seeing all the beautiful things that they were making, and I just really wanted to get back into sewing, so thanks to them I've started. So the other podcast that I suddenly sprung to my mind was Hey Sister podcast. Again, it's a knitting podcast as well as sewing, but they have beautiful patterns on there as well that they have made, and again, they use fantastic fabric, and their pattern choices are just really nice. I always, when I watch these podcasts, and I do it with knitting podcasts as well, I always sit there with a notebook next to me and a pen, because I'll hear something or I'll see something and I must write it down, otherwise I'll forget. So all of these podcasts, I do that with patterns, and I have a list a mile long of things that I want to sew. Actually, my birthday was last Sunday, so one of my birthday gifts was a gift voucher to a pattern store in, I think they're in Melbourne. I've talked about them before. Oh god, Indie Sew Indie? I can't remember. Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, I'll put it in the show notes, and I'll put it down at the bottom here so you can check it out if you're in Australia, or even if you're overseas. They ship worldwide. So yeah, a couple of interesting sewing podcasts to watch. I know there's an audio, someone was talking about an audio podcast that was sewing, and I did write it down. I must go back and check it because I wouldn't mind listening to that as well. If you have any suggestions for podcasts that are to do with sewing, please tell me. If you're watching this on YouTube, just comment down below. I always read every comment, or let us know on the Ravelry Group. Yeah, I'm always up for new podcasts, so that'd be great. But I have finished a sewing project. This is the Aida top by Sew Liberated, and I bought this pattern a while ago, and I sort of left it because I hadn't done a shirt before, which is silly because, I mean, now that I've done it, it's kind of the same, well, similar construction to a t-shirt, but it's just cut up the middle. It does have a button band. You don't have to put the buttons in, as in you don't have to put a button hole in. You can actually just sew the button to the button band because it's big enough to put over your top, over your head. And what was I going to say? Yeah, I mean, I put it off just for that, which was really silly. It was actually quite an easy sew, but I did stuff it up. Okay, so this is it here. It's really nice, long, and it has that back section so it sits lower, which is nice, so you can sort of wear it with leggings, I guess, tights. I don't think it has a... no, I mean they're the options there, so it's short sleeves. But if you wanted to like do this for winter and wear it with tights, you could easily sew this in a thicker material and then wear an undershirt, because it is very roomy. I mean, you could fit an undershirt under that easily. I had some Japanese cotton fabric that I bought, it was quite a long time ago, a couple of years ago, and I actually forgot about it. So I was looking through my fabric stash and I came across it, and I thought it would be perfect for this because it's very light cotton, and yeah, nice sort of summery top. I like to wear a lot of skirts and dresses in summer, and I like to wear high-waisted skirts, so I thought this was perfect because I could just tuck it in and sort of blouse it out. It has cute little details. It has the gathered fronts. Ooh, where is it? There. And then again, another little gather on the back. Now, I came back from holidays and my mum asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I said I wanted to buy a really big cutting mat because I cut out all my patterns on a cutting mat, but it's only a small one, a quilter's one, and I know you can get big quilter's one, and I'm pretty sure that's what this is, but it's huge. So I bought that a while ago and she gave me the money for it, so that was great. So I really wanted to sew something, and I'm waiting for patterns to come, like I said, that I were given for my birthday. They haven't arrived yet, and I was sort of really wanting to knit something, really wanting to sew something and try out this cutting board. So I found this pattern. Well, I didn't find it, I knew I had it, so I thought I'd give this one a go, and I remembered about this material, so it was great, and I used my cutting mat and it was so fast. I have two rotary cutters. I have one for the so I use interfacing for the pattern. I trace the pattern onto the interfacing. I actually find it really good because when I put the interfacing on top of the material to cut it out, it actually kind of grips onto it, so you don't need to put weights on. Yeah, it's really good. So I did that. I have one rotary cutter to cut that out, and then I have another one for the fabric. So I keep that for fabric only because they can get blunt really quick. Anyway, so I cut it all out and had it all ready to go, and I was going really well. I started this on, when was it? Saturday. And I was up to attaching the band, the button band, and I put the band over the shirt, and it was like the band wasn't fitting the shirt properly. So it was, I found the center back of the shirt and I put the band on it, and then I went to pin around to where the shoulder is, the shoulder seam, and the shoulder seam from the band just wasn't lining up. It was like way longer. I'm like, oh god, that should have been an alarm bell, as in, no, you're doing something wrong. But I thought maybe I had traced the pattern out wrong and I thought maybe I knew the button band was right because that was a really easy piece to trace, so I thought maybe I had stuffed up the yoke of, you know, the pieces at the top, the back and the front pieces. So I resized the yoke by unpicking the shoulder seam, and I took about 2 inches off the shoulder seam and then sewed the seam in and cut it. And it was the silliest thing I really could have done, because as it turns out I was putting the band on the wrong way. So it did actually need all that space around the back. So it would have been fine had I just left it, or just put it down and come back, or like just realised that I was making a big mistake. So that was a real bummer. And then I was like, well, you know, I really like this fabric, and I spent quite a bit of money on it. It wasn't cheap, but I really like it, and I just wanted this shirt. So what did I do? I ended up putting the band on correctly, like pinning it, and then there was about that much of the band that was overhanging on both sides. And when I mean both sides, like it was where the shoulder seam was. So what I ended up doing is I gathered up the extra bits, the extra length, and I cut it right at the back of the neck and then sewed it up. So I resized it, which means that the top and the bands are a lot smaller than what it should have been. And I knew this was going to happen, because I'd made the yoke smaller at the top, I would have to alter the sleeves. So I had to resize the sleeves, and the only way I did that was I pinned the sleeves in, and whatever excess was left at the bottom, I just cut it off. So basically it fits. Oh, okay, so then I tried it on and it fitted, okay, so the sleeves are a little bit snug, but what the problem was, because it's meant to be such an oversized shirt, the sleeves are really snug, and then the blouse bit was like just hanging like a sack, and I was like it just wasn't matching up. So then I went and ripped out the side seams, and I took about 2 inches off, no, 1 inch off either side. So I made the body a little bit more tapered, and that seemed to do the job. So, okay, so this is it. If I wear it out, I would wear it like I was thinking of wearing it. I'd tuck it into a skirt. But yes, the problem is the sleeves are quite tight. So yeah, I don't know. I think I will wear it, but yeah, I was a little bit disappointed. But I was very happy with myself, because I stuffed up and I did fix it. Oh, and the other thing was, I actually did a button band. Initially when I was doing this pattern, I thought I would do the band, but I would stitch the buttons into the band and not do a buttonhole, because I was worried I was going to stuff it up. But because I'd already stuffed this up and I was like, well, I've got nothing to lose now, I did the buttonholes, and they worked out really well. So I'm going to show you my buttonhole, because I was really impressed with it. That's it there. And they all line up. That was good. I was going to talk about my holiday and I just went to say goodbye, and it's not over yet. So if you don't want to hear about the holiday, I totally understand. I will see you next week. But anyway, we had a fantastic time. We went to Greece, and we were there for about 5, almost 6 weeks. We obviously went to Athens. We flew into Athens after a very long flight. I think it was 22 hours, which is actually quite a good amount of time from here. Oh, you can see my door handle. That's better. Yeah, so yes, 22 hours. I think we had a stopover in Singapore. It was only about 2 hours. So yes, we got to Athens. We were very tired. It was early morning. It was about 8 o'clock, and we grabbed our bags, got on the metro, which was, by the time it got into Athens, was packed, and it was quite scary, because I hate being in crowds, and particularly on a train, well, metro, and being like, wow, it's like squashed in like sardines and people are pushing, and you got to be careful you don't like find your way out the door along with everybody else. And we had our luggage, so we had big bags, we had backpacks on. It was just, it was just full on. And of course, you know, being tired after a long flight, you sort of feel like, I don't know, you've taken some sort of drug or something. It's just a really awful feeling. Again, if you do night shifts, you know that feeling. So yeah, that was interesting. So we got off at Syntagma station in Athens, and we found a cafe and sat down and just went, oh, okay. We bought a couple of frappes. And if you don't know what a frappe is, and it's not like how they make frappes here in Australia, they use instant coffee, Nescafe, and they blend it up with some water, and it comes out like in this thick foam, and then they add milk and, well, you can buy it without milk, but we like it with milk, so they add milk and water, and so it's like a iced coffee, but it has that cream in it that's just from the milk, from the water in the coffee. It's really incredible. So yes, that was really nice, and we were so thankful to have it because it was bloody hot. Athens was really, really hot. So anyway, that was our beginning, and then I think we were in Athens for 3 days, and then we caught the Festos Palace ferry to Crete. So it was about 6 hours, I think, on the ferry, which was great. They have, you know, bars, and they had a pool, and it was really, really nice. So we got off there. We went to Heraklion in Crete, and we stayed there for, it was about a week. We were in Crete for about 2 weeks, so it was around a week in Heraklion. We went and saw Knossos Palace and a few other things, and then we actually went down the coast to this strange place called Martala, which is, they have like all these caves in the beach, and it's where the hippies in the 60s came. They sort of found this place and came and set up homes in these caves, and it's really got that hippie vibe. It's, if you're Australian or if you're overseas and you've been to Byron Bay, it's exactly what it's like. It's kind of weird. Well, as in, it's not weird here, but it's weird in Greece because they have their own culture, and it's like I just went to Byron Bay. It was very strange, but it was good. Went there. I think we were there for a couple of nights, and then we ended up going back up north in Crete to Hania, and we stayed there for about a week in these really nice apartments. We had our own kitchen. We had a washing machine, which was great. Great TV, and nice little balcony. So yeah, that was really good, and we saw lots of things. We went to Samaria Gorge. We didn't actually walk the gorge, but we had lunch looking over it. We hired a bike, as in a motorbike, and we went all around the place on that. Excuse me, it was really good. And then we ended up catching, just before we left here, Sydney, we were looking at our trip, and I thought, I just have this feeling about this ferry, because there was a ferry that was meant to take us from a place near Hania, Kissimos. It was meant to take us up to the Peloponnese, and you know, some of the ferries are on like seasonal schedules, and I had this feeling that this one, which I checked a couple of months before, it was still running. Luckily I checked again because it was taken out of action for maintenance. So we had have, if we hadn't have checked, we would have been standing there waiting for a ferry that would never have come, and trying to get from there to Kalamata and the Peloponnese, it's impossible. So anyway, we ended up booking a flight from Hania to Athens, and then Athens to Kalamata. So it was a big day. We got up really early. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and got to Kalamata. We had booked a car, so we got a car, and we drove to the Mani. And I think out of all the places we stayed in Greece, the Mani was just It was amazing. It's the very southern, well, it's in the south of the Peloponnese. So you have like these fingers, 3 fingers of the Peloponnese, like that's the Peloponnese, and then they're the fingers that run down. The Marni's in this one, and it's the very bottom tip of the peninsula. And what makes it so amazing is that it is surrounded by mountains, so it's very inaccessible. Not so much these days because they've built roads, and I tell you what, the roads are pretty spectacular and scary at the same time because it's like windy right on the edge of the cliff. Yeah. So we drove there and stayed there for over a week in what they call a Marniat Tower, which Marniat Towers are these huge towers that just stick up everywhere. Like you're just driving along and there's these huge big towers. But what they've done is they've turned a lot of them into accommodation. So we stayed in one and it was fantastic. The owners, Zephy and Christos, they were just amazing. And it's called Sventura Hotel, so if you ever go to the Marni, you must stay there. They're wonderful. They can't speak much English, and that's the whole thing with the whole Marni area, is that it's not very touristy. So, which is great. I really liked it. But yes, there's not a lot of English spoken. But yeah, it was fantastic. The water was clear as crystal. There was lots of wildlife, and I don't know, it was just beautiful. So from there we went to, where do we go from there? We were on this finger, we went right over this side, we drove and stayed at Muthoni, which has this, again, like this fantastic castle just sitting there. It looks like Game of Thrones. It was just amazing. So we stayed there and did some things. And we were only there for about 2 or 3 nights. And next time when we do go back, that's one place I really, really want to go back and stay, because it was, again, quiet, not many tourists, beautiful. Yeah, definitely go back there. So from there we caught a bus to what was the port called? It was a port, oh, I can't remember. Anyway, and then caught a ferry across to Kefalonia. So we were there for about a week and we went to lots of beaches and... Just one sec. So I just wanted to mention, I was posting on Instagram about our time in Kefalonia, and Annie, who has a podcast with her husband, and her name on Instagram is Knitting It Up. She contacted me and said, oh, my family lives on that island and we've been there, have you been here, have you been here? So she gave us some fantastic travel tips, and we went. One was a beach, which I can't remember the name of, Patani. It was Patani Beach. It was just fantastic. So thank you, Annie, and I will put a link to her podcast, which is with her husband. They're Canadian, and it's very, very good. So I'm pretty sure it's called Knitting It Up too, but if not, I'll put it down here. So yeah, the power of internet, it's fantastic. Or online communities. So yes, we were at Kefalonia and we had a ball. We hired again a motorbike, and the sheer cliffs and the twisty roads, that was something. It's quite scary and amazing, beautiful and scary at the same time. But we survived. And then, yeah, we went back to Athens. We caught a bus from the island and it takes you over on the ferry and then back to Athens for a couple of nights, and then we came home. So it went really, really quickly. We love Greece. This is our second time in Greece itself, but we have also been to Cyprus, and we will definitely be going back to Greece again at some stage. Love Greek food, and Greek people are just awesome. And what really helps is Paul knows quite a bit of Greek, so he can speak it, which is great, because yeah, they really appreciate it when you try. And I can say like a couple of little words, but nothing not hello, goodbye, that kind of thing. But you know, they're happy that if you try, they're happy. So yeah, we had a fantastic time, and like I said, I didn't get as much knitting done as I would have liked, but I think I needed to just step back from knitting. I mean, I love knitting. Knitting is my hobby, and it's my passion, and it's what I do for my job. But I think that's the thing, like when I do knit, I do start thinking about work, and I needed to step back from that and just recharge, and I did. And as soon as we came back, I had all these fantastic ideas, and so yes, it was fantastic. So yeah, that was my time in Greece, and I have posted some pictures of it on Instagram, so you can check it out. And yeah, and that really is it this time. So thanks for hanging in there, and I will see you in a week's time, which is rather exciting. Hopefully I'll have some lots of knitting to show you, and some sewing. And yeah, take care. Hope you get lots of stuff done, lots of knitting, crafting, painting, whatever you're doing. Hope you're enjoying it, and I will see you next week. Bye.